Now we have another great talk coming on here. Gavin from Microsoft is our next presenter. Hello, Gavin.
Hey, everybody. Thank you guys for having me. Oh, you're so nice. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a nice audience. It's a good audience.
Right,
So,
you guys are so sweet.
Gavin, what are you talking about? We're talking about Visual Studio Code. Everyone loves this. So everyone give a hand to Gavin, and let's get this thing going.
Thank you, guys. Awesome. So when I was told I was giving Visual Studio tips and tricks, I was also told the title of this was going to be VS Code, your new editor. And then I learned not too long ago that everybody's already using VS Code as their editor. And I was like, oh, well, this might be a little awkward. So I may cover some things that you guys already know. Hopefully, you guys walk out with at least one cool new trick you've learned with VS Code. Does that sound all right? Awesome. So once again, like it was mentioned earlier, my name's Gavin Bauman, and I work for Microsoft. I'm based here in Boston, actually. So everyone's been asking me, Gavin, where have you been flying in from today? I was like, it's all of a 20-minute drive away, guys. So I'm super happy to be here, super happy to support the NativeScript dev community. Feel free to reach out at any time at my email address. For those who are pretty experienced developers, you guys may already know what a technical evangelist is. Well, when I talk to a lot of emerging devs, they go, what does that mean? Do you walk around with like a laptop and like a Pope hat? No, I don't, I promise, though it would be cool. So tech evangelist, for those that may not know, is pretty much just a geek that speaks. So we're half software developer, half public speaker. And whenever Microsoft launches new SDKs, new APIs, things like that, I'm one of the guys that gets to work on the documentation. I go and I lead developer boot camps. I get to make really cool hacky projects and talk about it in the community. So the first couple minutes of every presenter's presentation, it's more about me than it is about you guys, sorry. So one cool thing is that I'm a college hire from Microsoft, woo! But that ended 3 months ago, so I can officially be fired. It's great. And born, raised in Louisiana, I moved here 2 years ago after finishing school at Xavier University of Louisiana. I was a computer science grad, but I wasn't a computer science major. I started in pharmacy, and I didn't really like myself or others. And yeah, so this GIF pretty much accurately describes how I felt. By the way, guys, there's a GIF for every slide from here on out, so good luck. Also, yeah, and I discovered computer science. I was like, what's the salary for someone as a developer? And I was like, this is what a pharmacist makes. Table flip, I'm out. So anyway, right before we get in, this is the last slide that doesn't have to do anything with VS Code, but I figured people would be interested in free stuff that Microsoft gives their developers, yeah? I didn't hear yeah. I didn't hear any confirmation. They're just like, oh, yo, thank you. Cool. So if you are a student, DreamSpark is our developer offering for you. We give you guys tools for pros because in order to be a pro, you got to use what the pros use, right? Additionally, and this is for everyone, we give out Visual Studio Dev Essentials, and that's a place where you can go and download Visual Studio Community Edition, Visual Studio Code. You get a 3-month subscription to Pluralsight, which if anyone doesn't know, Pluralsight is like the YouTube for tech and creative technology, and it's insane. It's like plugging into the matrix. The only thing you may not have at Pluralsight is time to do it. But it's great. And we also do Xamarin Studio and Xamarin University training with Dev Essentials. And it's a totally free thing. You also get $25 a month worth of Azure credit. So if you're looking to become a pro on Azure and you don't want to like spend your own cash to get started and get ramped up, feel free to check that out. Finally, Imagine Cup is also for students. That's our yearly competition wherein students get together, make something really cool, and the winner gets about $50,000 to go to their hack for a startup. And finally, yours truly. Feel free to look at me as a local resource, guys. Do not hesitate to reach out at any time. Let me know what cool projects you're doing, you're working on using our tech. Let me know what cool ideas you have that you may not be, so you may be platform agnostic on, and I do not mind helping out. So what is VS Code? I get this a lot. Is it an editor? Is it an IDE? Is it both? I don't personally like to call it an editor because I came from, in college we did the Sublime text things, and I was like, this is not like Sublime at all. But at the same time, it's not an IDE either, right? So the biggest difference is that text editors tend to be lightweight and fast, and they take under 10 minutes to install, whereas Visual Studio or Android Studio or Xcode takes literally 30 years to install, right? You can go and you can do your taxes and learn how the stock market works and come back. You'd be lucky if you're halfway done. So that's like, therein lies the biggest difference. Another thing is that text editors are completely customizable, and the same can be said for IDEs, but I think that text editors rely more on community support and the fact that it's more modular. They're great for small code build debug cycles. They're not necessarily great for big, larger DevOps scenarios where you have to manage large projects. That's usually where an IDE comes in. Once again, text editors have huge community support and huge community backings, and so do IDEs, but I think this is more pronounced with, like, I look at Sublime, and you can turn Sublime into like this Franken IDE at this point. There's like so much stuff you can get for it. And yeah, and IDEs tend to be great for complex workflows. So Visual Studio Code falls somewhere in between those. It's super extensible, which is great. It's also cross-platform, so it works on Linux, it works on Mac, it works on Windows, which is insane. 5 years ago, if you'd have wanted this like from a Microsoft guy, right, we would have declared you a blasphemer and like tied you to a cross and stoned you. That got dark. I'm sorry, guys. So yeah, I always say it sits in the middle between editors and IDEs, and there's over 800 extensions available, and that's as of April, guys, so I have no idea what the number is now. One would assume that it's only gotten bigger. And did I say cross-platform? It totally is. So some cool things that Visual Studio does is it's got IntelliSense, which is everything now, and it's not just, oh, hey, you declared this class earlier, and last time, you called this dot something method, and I'm just guessing that you might want this again, like Sublime does me. I'm pretty sure there's like an extension that fixes that at this point. I can't say Sublime does a thing anymore because it just doesn't apply. And anyway, so IntelliSense is supported with a couple of different languages out of the box, and even more languages as extensions. Debugging supported. Git integration, which is super cool. I'm going to show how that works today. It's extensible. There are too many shorthand commands for me to remember with my feeble mind, but I will teach you guys. If you guys are completely new to code, and you walk away with one shorthand command today, it's going to be F1. That's like, it shows me everything else I need to know. So we'll talk about that as well. And it's accessible. And I really like, I feel like that's spelled wrong, by the way. Anyway, accessibility is a really big thing that we don't often think about as software developers. It's usually sort of the tail end of the dev cycle. And to know that accessible options were made within Visual Studio Code and were considered day one is a really big thing, right? So it's super important. We should all be doing this. I hope everyone's already doing this. Yeah? Yeah? Just nod, please. Okay, great. Cool. So I'm just going to blaze through these slides, and then I'm going to get actually to the demo. At first, when I was rehearsing this, I was like, I'm going to go to this slide, and then I'm going to swap screens, and I'm going to go demo, and no, it just breaks. So anyway, like I said, IntelliSense is supported. By default, it is supported with JavaScript, TypeScript, which I know you guys love here, JSON, HTML, CSS, Sass, and less. But there's also plenty more in the marketplace, right? So if I'm coding in Python on Django's framework, right, I can go and get a Python extension, and I'll have IntelliSense for that, which is awesome. One of my favorite things is a built-in terminal. It makes me so happy because so I have a triple monitor set up at home, right? Like one for my code, one for the docs, and one for my terminal. I can now have this terminal and my code on one screen, which also means I can use that other monitor for Netflix. It's amazing. And so tabs is the thing that we did not have in version 1, and I'm so glad we finally did it, because how do you not release a version 1 of an editor without tabs? So Control Tab goes forward. Tabs, Control Shift Tab goes backward. That's a big thing for me. And if for some reason you're one of those weirdos that don't like tabbed work, which who are you? But anyway, if you are one of those folks, you can always turn tabs off. Up next is debugging all day. We got built-in Node.js support as a debugger by default, but if you wanted to download more, we do have more. Some created by the community, some created by Microsoft themselves. I love this GIF, by the way, guys. This is like how I feel whenever I'm debugging. Is this it? Why did that break? Go get a sandwich. Cool. And like I said, accessibility. So these are just 4 big ones that I saw that I thought that were really important. You guys are distracting. Says the guy with like all the gifts. But yeah, so zoom, high contrast, keyboard navigation for those that may have problems navigating with the mouse, and screen readers are available. But there's a ton more accessibility features offered in VS Code. These are just some of the biggies that I saw fit to highlight. But if you want to learn more, feel free to hit up these helpful links. You can take a picture of this, but if you ask me, I don't mind like sharing this out. I'll probably give it to Brian. Are we doing any like shared PowerPoints at the end of this? Is that a thing? He's like, we never even thought about it, Gavin. Why would you put me on the spot like that? Well, yeah, if you guys want it, just feel free to hit me up and I'll email it to you. And usually I'm demoing while I'm delivering this PowerPoint, so this slide implies that we finished, but we're not finished. But just know that you guys are the real MVPs. So feel free to reach out at any time, gavin.bowman@microsoft.com. You can hit me up on Twitter. You can visit my beautiful blog, and by beautiful, I mean it's super, super light, at theothergavin.net. And now I'm going to go ahead and hop to demo. Am I okay? Cool. That should work. Yay. So I've got this cool little project that my coworker made, and it was so sexy. I felt the need to demo it. It's actually, I got it hosted here, and this is the project we're going to be working from, of course. Okay, well, so while this does this thing, it's a cool little web app, guys. What it does is it uses Microsoft's Project Oxford APIs to pull in a picture. It does a facial recognition and emotion detection, and it determines whether you're actually happy or sad. So I just wanted to show it off because it's really fun, but this is kind of heartbreaking. I was also going to show I was going to test with the hardest celebrity to determine his emotion, right? Kanye West. He was going to be my demo dummy for this, right? Because I don't know what this is. Is this happy? I have no idea. I have no idea. So I'm kind of heartbroken that this isn't working. But that's okay. We're just gonna pivot and keep going. So one of the cool things about Visual Studio Code is that I can go into whatever project folder I'm working in, right? This is my project folder. I'm going to Control-Shift, right-click, and I'm going to open up a Control-Shift, right-click. And I'm going to open up a command window here. The cool thing is that I can go ahead and kick up Visual Studio Code from the command prompt just by typing in code space dot. Also, guys, I have a notepad file of things I wanted to show off because I forget a lot. Anyway, cool. So this is your editor, guys. Off to the left side of the screen, you've got sort of an action bar, right, with an explorer and things like that. Ignore that. What's that? Oh gosh. Glad you asked. Yeah, we're gonna pretend it's not a problem. We'll just do that. Does that look okay? No? People are like, yeah, it's fine. Cool. So off on the left side of this window is our action bar, right? And these are the most important things you'll be using all the time. So I can go ahead and kick up my Explorer from here, and I can navigate through all these folders and see what's going on. This is a Node.js app. Right? I can open some things. I can do global searching, which is a very common commonality that you'll be needing with either an IDE or an editor. I also have Git integration built in with Visual Studio Code, which is really cool. So one of the things I like to show off is how you can use this as your global Git differ. That's not a term, actually, but I like to call it the differ. So you can use it to do diffs, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and create a new file. I'm going to name this... I don't want to create it there, actually. Ignore that. Just take me to the root. Take me to the root. Okay, that should be good. Just outside of that. I'm going to create a new file. Of course, it puts it in views, whatever. And I'm going to call it a.txt, right? And I'm just going to say this is a file. And I'll just create another. I'll save that, actually. Boop. And I'll create another file, and I'll go b.txt. I'll go, this is b file. Cool. And the cool thing about the Git integration is that I can check out the differentiation between the two. So all I got to do is right-click A, and I can click Select for Compare. Then I'll go to B, wherever I put B. Right-click B, select for Compare. Right-click Compare with B, my bad. Cool. And this is just me checking out a basic Git diff, right? So I can use this. I can see what's happening on either file, or I can do inline changing, right? I can see how this looks in inline views. I can see it as one file, which I thought is pretty freaking cool and super lightweight to do. To do this in Visual Studio requires a lot of luck and and a steady hand. So I really like seeing that. Now, another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is the built-in terminal, right? So I don't even need this anymore. All I got to do is come to my editor here, Control, what is that? Accent mark? Tilde? Control tilde? and boom, I get my terminal right here. So what if I had some packages I needed to install, right? I go npm install. Works the same way as any old terminal does, right? Well, looks I already have that installed. What do node users do? Grunt? Is that something people use? Is that a thing? I'm a mobile guy. We don't do grunt. I'm kidding. It looks like it is. Yeah, so it's going out. It's working underway. And I love this. It saves me so much space. It's amazing. So what's next? What else did I want to talk about? Tabs. Tabs are here, guys, as you can see. So I can click up other things like happy.js, and then I can open up another tab, mat.js, and I can control tab between the two, which is really cool. But like I said, shorthand commands would make you more productive, but you may not remember them all. Again, the only one I ever need you guys to walk away with is the F1 key. F1 is amazing because I can do everything I need to do from F1. I can scroll down this list to see everything I can do from the debugger, from the extensions, right? And maybe I want to add an extension. Maybe I'll just pretend this is a Python app, right? So I'll just type in extension. Look at that. I can go ahead and install extensions from here. My search kicks up, and what do I want? I want Ruby, because I totally know Ruby. I don't know Ruby. Cool, so I'm going to, I could search for that if I had internet. Oh, laugh off the pain. But that is a thing I could do. And what it does is it gives me this cool landing page, right? And I can click install, and it also shows me like change logs and things like that, like you'd see in an app store, right? You guys get that. I have to paint a picture for you, sadly. What's up next? Oh, the debugger. The debugger's cool. So I can do most of the basic things I'd want to do in a debugger with VS Code, right? It's pretty cool. So I can add breakpoints. I can check out my watch list. I can look at my stack trace and all that good stuff by going ahead and clicking this debug tool here. I can look at all of that, like check out my call stack and stuff like that. Let's go ahead and I can't. This project requires internet to work, so I can go ahead and pretend I'm going to add a breakpoint right here, right, and see if this gets hit or not. And what it does is it shows at the bottom. Looks like bottom left of the screen, right? It shows me all the breakpoints I have. So I can breakpoint for all exceptions. I can breakpoint for uncaught. And so right under here, you'll see in my happy.js file, that's the breakpoint I just made, right? So it's really cool and really handy to have. No more print debugging. Don't do print line statements anymore. Just stop it. You'd be surprised how many checked in code files I've seen was like debug.log printed still. You're better than this, people. Cool. So next up is autosave. So autosave is a pretty controversial feature in VS Code. So when we launched it, it launched with autosave. How am I on time, by the way, guys? Anybody? I'm not watching myself. I should have been watching myself. I'm good? Okay, great. So autosave was a feature that came with VS Code by default. But we've heard from the community that a lot of you guys don't like that. So now, by default, it's turned off. But if you want it back on, you can go ahead and, again, what's that magical shortcut I want you all to remember? F1, like a boss. So I'm going to go ahead and click F1, and I'm going to type in settings. And I can open up my user settings here. And so on the left side of the screen, you're going to see my default settings. And on the right side of the screen, you're going to see any settings that I add, right? And I can go ahead and change these as well. And this is really great for accessibility. Users who rely on accessibility features as well. So you can make the font as big as you want. You can zoom as much as you want. It's pretty cool for that. And it's got more settings that I'll ever care to actually look at, which is cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and put in files.autosave. That's what I want. Files.autosave. And there's 3 different methods. Like I said, by default, it's set to off. But IntelliSense is magical. So I can either have autosave off completely, or I can have it after a certain delay, a set time delay. I can have it change when I change focus, right? So as soon as I go to another part of my code, it autosaves, right? I can also change it when I go to different windows. I like on focus change because I don't ever trust myself to hit Control S, right? That's where the IDE saves Gavin, right? He needs that. Cool. So I can go ahead and drop this in and save it, and now my files will save whenever they need to. And finally, does anybody have a blog written in like Jekyll? Any big like static web pages. I got one. Okay, great. So you're gonna like this. The cool thing about VS, I don't know if any other editor even does this because I've never tried, but I'm going to pretend that no other editor does this because I don't want to ruin the novelty of this. So if I go here, there's a README file, a markdown file somewhere in this project. Yep, at the bottom, readme.md. Well, where'd it go? There it goes. All right, I'm going to close everything else because I don't want to see everything else, right? By default, you see it like you would see a README in an editor, right? It looks pretty standard. But if I wanted to see how this README gets formatted, I'll use this handy-dandy shorthand command that I totally remember. Control-Shift-V. Okay, cool. Control-Shift-V, and it formats it or not, right? So this is the actual README that you'd see in GitHub, and I love this, guys. So if I wanted to see what my code looked like without having to like deploy it anywhere, what my Markdown looked like without having to deploy it anywhere, it just makes things so much simpler for me on this end. Cool. So that's another thing. Branches. So let's talk about that. So, like I said, Git integration is a thing, feature added. Super cool to use. I'm not a huge fan of using Git from a GUI. I prefer the console, but VS Code may make me a believer. May make me a believer. Cool. So I can see all the files in my editor that I've changed, right? And I can go ahead and select each one. I can stage them. I can commit these changes from here by typing in my cool commit message. Like, this is the initial pretend commit. Right? And I can just hit this checkbox, and boom, it's already committed, right? Which is awesome. Now, if I had another branch, I could also check this out to another branch. I don't have another branch, but again, what's that handy-dandy shorthand command? F1, indeed. And I can just go ahead and type git branch or git checkout, right? And it'll show me all the branch I have. And it's like, give me a valid one, Gavin, because you don't have any. But if I did have branches, they'd all be right here. Cool, and I think that's most of the, oh, no, it's not most of the things. So I was talking to a friend of mine I went to school with, and we've still got student mentality on a lot of things, right? So I'm telling him about how cool VS Code is, and he goes, yeah, but, I know this sounds silly, Gavin, but I really like the theme Sublime gives me. Like, I really like that font. It makes me happy, makes me smile. And I was like, that's kind of stupid. But if you guys are really, really, really married to that theme, right, I'm just going to go ahead and open up a random file here. I can go ahead and hit F1 again. I can type in theme, and I can change my theme. Not only can I change my theme, I can go to the Monokai theme that you find in Sublime. So if you guys really, really care about that, that's an option. So that's a silly little component I wanted to talk about. And with that, guys, I don't want to hold too much away from you. Feel free. I'm going to pull up this PowerPoint with handy-dandy links in case no one got them. Did anybody learn anything from this? Did anybody pick up something? Yeah? That's a good bit of the room. Awesome. Oh, thank you. I appreciate it, guys, and I thank you guys so much for having me. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave these up here in case anyone needs them. I found them really useful when I was learning about VS Code. I had the pleasure of working on the Node.js website, and by pleasure, I mean it was horrible. Why? What is routing? Anyway, yeah, feel free to take down these links. And again, if you want to find the PowerPoint after this, just find me after this. I'll be at the booth for a good bit of the day. Awesome. Thank you, guys.